Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So as you can see by the title of today's video, we are going to go over all of the books that I have on my KU TBR, but more specifically the Black indie romance books that I have on my KU TBR. I have come across so many Black indie romance books that I want to read, and to be honest y'all, this isn't even an extensive list because I still have to add more to this library, but for right now this is what we have, and I really should get through these books first before I start adding more. But either way, I'm really excited to share all of these books with you. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started. This video might be a little bit all over the place. I'm going to try to structure it as best as I can. I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm literally just going to pick the first book that I see. The first book that I see here is actually a part of a series, and it is a part of the St. Louis Cyclones series, which is a basketball romance series. And the first book in the series is called Flagrant. The second book is called Technical. And then the third book is called Personal. And I've never read anything by Alexandria House before, but I am really excited to start. I randomly came across the series when I was just searching on KU one night. I was really in the mood to add more basketball romances to my TBR, and I love the Hoop series, which is right here. I love that series with my entire heart, and I just love a good basketball romance. I don't know what it is, but something about that sport and romance, it just gets me every single time. So like I said, I was on the hunt for more, and this is what I found. But the first book that I have to start out with, like I mentioned, is called Flagrant. And in this story, we follow two characters named Paul and Kendra. And so starting with Paul, Paul is actually a NBA star, but Paul is also known as a player off of the court. And this is how Kendra is pretty much thrown into the mix, because Kendra and Paul have this situationship going on. So she is technically the main woman in his life, but like I said, Paul is a player, so he is dealing with multiple women at once, but he does have this revelation that he wants to commit and settle down and be a better man for Kendra. But as he starts to realize that, I think Kendra also starts to realize that she deserves better and that she deserves to be number one in someone's life. So I think you're going to follow Paul throughout the story of him trying to really grovel and do what he can to get back into Kendra's good graces and be the man of her dreams. And to be honest, I'm all here for it. I love when a man has to grovel and has to really work to get back into the female MC's good graces and really showing her that he is serious about her and serious about their relationship. So like I said, really looking forward to diving into this one. I am still in the process of finishing the Hoop series, so I still have to read the last book in the series, which is called Hookshot. So once I finish that, I will move on to this romance series, and I can't wait. And to be honest, I'm probably going to try to find more basketball romances so that way I can share those recs with you guys, of course, but also for me to just have these books on my radar, and I just want to read all of the basketball romances that I can. I'm not going to get into the synopsises for Technical and Personal, only because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to know until I finish Flagrant, but I did just want to shout out those two books because it is a part of the series and they're also on my TBR. I have another Alexandria House book on my TBR, so we're just going to throw this in here too. But the next book that I have here is called Set, and this is the first book in the Them Boys series, which love the name. It does look like it's going to be a one-night stand that leads into something more, essentially. So right here it says, a chance encounter and one night of passion leads to a mutually beneficial arrangement for two souls from different worlds. When love creeps into the equation, neither is sure how to feel or what to do. The only thing either is certain of is their need for the other. Short, sweet, simple, to the point, and you know what? I'm not even mad at it. So this is another book that I'm going to have to prioritize and get to. Also, this cover, y'all, woo, you already know that this is going to be steamy. When it comes to indie romances, you know the smut level is going to be times 1,000 anyway, so I'm gonna have to brace myself for this. But I am really interested to see how this story plays out and what these characters are gonna get up to. And the second book in this series is called Ja. And then the third book in this series is called Shoe. So I will quickly read the synopsises for Ja and Shoe, only because they're very short, very vague, so I'm not spoiling anything for myself or for you. But right here, the synopsis for Ja says, neither of them was looking for the other, and now neither of them wants to let go. Oh, love that. And then the synopsis for Shoe is even shorter, and it says, invisible, broken, seen, nurtured, loved. Don't know what's gonna happen in Shoe's story, but I'm intrigued. I read my first indie romance and my first Black indie romance earlier this year. I want to say maybe in January or February, but I read Snowflake by Nia Forrester, and you guys have probably heard me talk about that on my channel quite a bit because I really love that book. It was so refreshing, so fun, and so steamy. The next book that I have here actually goes back to one of the books that I called out earlier. I told you guys that I read Snowflake by Nia Forrester, and that is a part of the Afterwards series. The next book in the series, which is after Snowflake, is called Rhyme and Reason. This is a book that I forgot about, but I really need to read because this book pretty much much tells the story of two characters who were in Snowflake, and I loved those two characters, so I'm really hoping that they get their happy ending in this book. The story follows two characters named Zora and Deuce. Deuce comes from a very wealthy family, but he is very kind, very patient, and just very caring, especially when it comes to the people that he loves, more specifically Zora. And then on the other hand, you have Zora, his love interest, and Zora is a free spirit and she really wants to make change in the world. So because of their different outlooks on life and also just their differences when it comes to how you should be in a relationship, this does cause some friction between them. And like I said, I think this story is just going to be about them reconciling and getting back on track. The next book, or the next books that I have here, are all by the same author, and it is called the Coffee Shops of Love series by Carmen Lee. So the first book in this series is called Cups of You. The second book in the series is called Sips of Her. And then the third book in the series is called Taste of Him. All of those titles are so fitting and they sound very steamy. So I'm actually just going to read the synopsis for this book because there's a lot going on here and I want you guys to get the full picture. So right here it says, Amber Jones is back home, temporarily. In 6 months, she plans to drive away from the town that still holds painful memories and back to her big city life. But a newcomer with a voice like the darkest roast and an ever-present smile unexpectedly makes returning to the hustle and bustle of the city and the boyfriend she shares with it, seem much less appealing. Benjamin Murphy moved to Millinsville for his ex-wife, but even after their very public split, he remained in the town that embraced him and his now teenage daughter as one of their own. When a gorgeous woman from the city walks into his quaint coffee shop, not even her dour expression is enough to keep him from trying to catch one more glimpse of her smile. These two seem like total opposites, but when the old adage of opposites attracting seems to hold true, will Amber and Benjamin be able to bridge the gaps between them and find love? Or will their common ground crumble beneath the weight of their differences? Oh, that just sounds so cute. And right here it says, Cups of You is sweet, steamy, and full of sass. That just sounds like that's going to be so good, so moving. And I love the fact that this is a reverse grumpy sunshine. So it seems like Amber is going to be the grump and Benjamin is going to be the sunshine, and I'm all here for that. I love when we get that reverse trope because you don't really see it too much in romance books still. I feel like we're seeing a little bit more, but not as much as we probably could, you know? So I really like to see that. I definitely have to bump this up to the top of my TBR because this just sounds like a book that I need to read very soon because it's giving me those feels. It's giving me those high rating feels, and I just want to see if I'm right. Similar to the last series that I talked about, I don't want to get into the synopsises for the other two books because I don't want to spoil anything. But again, just wanted to put them on your radar and to let you guys know that these are also on my TBR. So the next author that I have here on this TBR is A.E. Valdez. I feel like I've seen and heard a lot of buzz surrounding A.E. Valdez and her books, and I love that for her. The book that I'm referring to that I feel like I've seen a lot of people talk about is called The Beginning of Forever, a Sunshine plus Ace story. And I just love this cover. Can we take a second to look at it? Talk about stunning. This story follows a young woman named Harlow, and Harlow is in this blissful, love-filled relationship with her long-term boyfriend, who also happens to be a professional baseball player. Because of Harlow's boyfriend's career, it does start to overshadow their relationship and causes a strain on the relationship, but also between them. But it does seem like Harlow decides to take time for herself because she ends up taking a trip to Bali, and then she ends up making a move to Seattle. I'm sure in an eat, pray, love type of situation. And while she's dealing with all of this and trying to figure out the next phase of her life, she ends up crossing paths with her new love interest, and sparks start to fly, and the story takes off from there. Like I said, this is one of those books that I have seen countless times on Bookstagram. I've always been intrigued by it and intrigued by the cover. And the last book that I have by A.E. Valdez that is sitting on my TBR as of right now is called A Worthy Love. Publicly humiliated, Marissa Banks is blindsided by the news that the man she's been dating for months is married. Being called names she wouldn't wish on anyone in front of a room full of people by her boyfriend's wife is enough to shake her identity to its foundations. In an attempt to rebuild, she makes a few questionable decisions. Asher Blaine is one of them. He's intelligent and sexy, but the pedestal he's got himself up on is unshakable, or so he thinks. Marissa asks for the one thing he can't deny her, even if it's the craziest thing he's ever done. She wants one night, his best 8 hours, and damn if he doesn't deliver. The next morning, her bubble is shattered by his loud mouth, and Marissa retaliates with a stiletto and a remote. Oh my goodness. The best night of her life is over, and she's more than happy to walk away a free woman. Asher's job sends him to Marissa's city, and when they cross paths again, it's Asher's turn to make an offer. And just like him, she can't refuse. Will his worst nightmare and his complicated past ruin what they're building, or can they lean on one another to make it through? All of the synopsises for these books just sound so good, y'all, and I don't know how I'm going to choose my next read. Like, this is going to be so difficult. I might have to do like a TBR jar. Okay, y'all, we're almost done. The next book that I have here is called Bittersweet by Trina Crooks. So this one sounds like this is going to be messy. To be honest, a lot of the books that I have on this TBR sound like they're going to be nothing but mess, and that's the type of escapism that I need. So this is another story that deals with cheating and marital affairs and things like that. If you don't like reading books like that, then just keep that in mind. Sharice Wood's life was turned upside down the moment she found her husband in their marital bed with another woman. This act of betrayal devastated her, quickly shutting her down and making her bitter to love, which was an emotion she was more than happy to embrace. After literally bumping into a sexy ex-football player on a girls' night out, he takes an interest in her, and although she was attracted to him, there was no way she was going to let her heart get trampled again. So, to avoid all of that, she offered him her body and not her heart, hoping that the purely sexual relationship that she craved would be enough for him. Jermaine Lewis could have any woman he wanted. As a premier player in the NFL for 10 years, getting a woman's attention was never a hardship, until he met Sharice. He probably should have moved on from her, but there was something behind her sad eyes that pierced his soul and made him want to get to know her a little better. So he tried his luck, hopeful that she would give him a chance to take her on a date. But when she only presented the option of being together physically, he jumped at the opportunity and trusted that he could possibly, over time, finesse that into more. As their physical relationship grows more into an emotional one, and love slowly starts to creep in, Sharice gets scared. She's not ready to give her heart and risk getting hurt again, while Jermaine is determined to prove to her that he's not like her husband. He wants to show her how a real man loves a woman. If only she could let the walls down around her heart and let him.
Why are all of these synopses hitting? All of them are hitting.
Oh my goodness. I really have to like dive into the Kindle app more and be more consistent with this because I feel like I'm missing out on an entire world. And the last book that I have here, I feel like needs no introduction because I feel like if you're in the romance indie world, then you already know about this book, but it is called Restore Me by J.L. Seegers, and this is the first book in the New Haven series. And I have been intrigued by this book for some time. A lot of people have compared this book and compared J.L. Seegers' work to Kennedy Ryan, and y'all know Kennedy Ryan is my girl. So if I hear that there's another author that has similar penmanship to the Queen, I'm gonna check them out. This is a book that I have kept on my radar for some time. I just haven't been ready to dive into it yet just because this book has a lot of trigger warnings, as I'm sure all of these books do. So please make sure you look up trigger warnings. I should have said that first, but please make sure you look up trigger warnings for every single book that I mentioned in this video. But this book in particular, you really have to look up triggers because there's a lot going on here when it comes to death, depression, unaliving yourself. But this is one of those emotional, hard, heavy hitting books that I know is gonna have me in the feels, and when I'm ready for that, I'm definitely going to pick this up. The only things that I know about this book is that it is enemies to lovers, thank God, and it's also a forbidden romance. So two of my favorite things mashed up into one. I feel like this is going to be a high rated book. I'm already sensing that, but time will tell. So this story follows two characters named Sloane and Dominic, and Sloane was actually married to Dominic's best friend, but unfortunately her husband and Dominic's best friend ends up passing away, and Dominic and Sloane are both devastated by this. They're both heartbroken, of course, and even though they disliked each other the entire time Sloane's husband and Dominic's best friend was alive, they, I think, do find solace and comfort in one another after the death of this mutual person, and one thing leads to another, sparks start to fly because Dominic is the best friend of Sloane's deceased husband. That of course does make their relationship or situationship fall into a forbidden romance just because of the optics of it all. So I am really curious to see how this story plays out and see what direction J.L. Seegers takes the story in, but I've heard nothing but great things about this series, especially Restore Me. I feel like this is everyone's favorite out of the series because of the topic at hand, I guess, but I can't wait to be in the right headspace so that way I can finally give this book a read and see if she's giving Kennedy Ryan. Like, I need to know. I need to know. And the next book in this series is called Revive Me, Part 1. This follows a new set of characters named Mallory and Christopher. I'm not going to get into the full synopsis. I just want to get that build up and that setup first before I just, you know, read about them and what's going on. I wonder when Part 2 is going to come out. Either way, I still got some time before I even get to Part 1. So yeah, but I did just want to call that out, that there is going to be a Part 2 of Revive Me. All right, y'all, and those are all of the books that I currently have on my KU Black Indie Romance TBR, and please keep in mind that this is not an extensive list. There are other books that I do plan on adding to my TBR. I just haven't sat down and done it yet, but there are other books that I have come across, whether it's from other booktubers or bookstagrammers or just in general when I'm searching KU randomly at like 3 a.m. I did just want to share the books that I currently have with you guys today because I never talk about my Kindle Unlimited reads, and I honestly never talk about my ebook reads because I always forget that I have them, which is really bad. So I really need to make sure that I balance my physical reading and my ebook reading because I'm missing out on so many great books and I can't own all of these physically, which is why I resort to KU and Apple Books and the whole nine. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me, my channel out. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video like I always do. I will see you guys in my next video.